My toxic parents and my narcissistic older sister thought they committed the perfect crime. They broke into my apartment, stole the proprietary AI software I spent 3 years building, and legally registered it under my sister's name. They kicked me out of the family, calling me a worthless loser who should be grateful to donate my life's work to my sister's new tech startup. With my stolen code, she convinced a massive Silicon Valley firm to buy her fake company for $50 million and secured a marriage to a billionaire heir. They thought I was crying in a cheap apartment, defeated and broken. They had no idea that I deliberately let them steal it. They didn't know I embedded a cryptographic kill switch deep inside the software. And they definitely didn't know that I had secretly been hired as the lead technical auditor for the exact company buying her out. My name is Maya. And this is the story of how I waited 18 months to execute my entire family, permanently erasing their $50 million deal, and putting my sister in federal handcuffs right in the middle of her $2 million luxury wedding. Grab a snack because this is going to be a long, beautiful ride. To understand the magnitude of this revenge, you have to understand the nightmare I grew up in. I am 25 years old. I have an older sister named Chloe, who is 28. In my parents' eyes, Chloe was a living god. She was a former pageant queen, an Instagram influencer with 1 million fake followers, and a woman who had never worked a real job in her entire life. My parents, Robert and Diane, were obsessed with image. They took out second mortgages to fund Chloe's luxury lifestyle, buying her a Mercedes she couldn't afford and paying for her lavish vacations to Dubai and Paris, just so she could post photos and look like a wealthy socialite. And then there was me. The ghost. I was the quiet, nerdy daughter who wore oversized hoodies and spent my weekends coding in my bedroom. My parents treated me like a burden. When I got accepted into MIT with a full scholarship, my mother didn't even congratulate me. She just sighed and said, "That's nice, Maya. But can you help Chloe write her business emails? She's trying to launch a lifestyle brand and you know she's too pretty to stress over typing." I learned early on that I was invisible. So I leaned into it. I graduated early, got a remote job as a senior software engineer, and quietly moved into a small apartment downtown. For 3 years I spent every waking hour outside of my day job developing a revolutionary AI logistics algorithm. It was a predictive modeling software designed to optimize global shipping routes. It was brilliant. It was complex. And it was worth tens of millions of dollars. I was preparing to patent it and launch my own company. But I made one fatal mistake. I trusted my family. One Sunday, my parents invited me over for a family dinner. I thought maybe, for once, they actually wanted to see me. When I arrived, Chloe was sitting at the dining table, crying crocodile tears. "Maya," my father said sternly, not even saying hello. "Chloe's lifestyle brand went bankrupt. She's $200,000 in debt. Her new boyfriend, Julian, comes from a family of Silicon Valley billionaires. If Julian's family finds out she's broke, they won't let him propose to her. She needs a success story. Fast." "Okay," I said slowly. "What does that have to do with me?" My mother stepped forward, her eyes cold. "You've been playing around with some computer program on your laptop, right? Some shipping thing. We want you to give the rights to Chloe. We'll register the LLC in her name, and she can present it to Julian's family as her own tech startup. It's the perfect cover." I stared at them, completely stunned. "Give her my software." "Mom, I've spent 3 years writing that code. It's an enterprise-level AI. Chloe doesn't even know how to use Excel. She can't pretend to be a tech founder." "Don't be selfish, Maya," Chloe screamed, slamming her hands on the table. "You're just a greedy little troll. I need this. Julian's family is wealthy. If I marry him, I'll be set for life. You owe me this." "I owe you nothing," I said, my voice trembling with anger. I looked at my parents. "I am patenting it tomorrow. If you ever ask me to give up my life's work for her fake Instagram life again, I will cut you off completely." I walked out, slamming the door. I thought that was the end of it. I had no idea how far their toxic entitlement would go. 3 days later, I came home from picking up groceries. The front door of my apartment was unlocked. The deadbolt was scratched, like someone had forced it open with a bump key. My heart dropped. I dropped my grocery bags and ran into my home office. My safe was cracked open. My backup hard drives, the ones containing the entire uncompiled source code for my AI, were gone. My primary laptop was gone. Even the physical notebooks where I mapped out the algorithm's logic were missing. I panicked. I grabbed my phone to call the police. But before I could dial 911, my phone rang. It was my father. "Don't bother calling the cops, Maya," he said coldly. "You broke into my house." I screamed. "You stole my hard drives." "We didn't steal anything," my mother's voice chimed in on speakerphone. "We just reclaimed family property. You used the laptop we bought you for your 18th birthday to write that code. Therefore, it belongs to the family. We already had Chloe's new lawyer file the copyright and IP registration this morning. The company is officially called Chloe Tech LLC. I felt physically sick. They had premeditated this. They waited for me to leave the house, broke in, and legally hijacked my unpatented source code before I could file the paperwork. "You're insane," I breathed. "You can't do this. That code is useless to her. She doesn't know how to run it." "She doesn't need to run it," my father sneered. "Julian's father runs Axiom Global, one of the biggest logistics firms in the world. Chloe showed him the executive summary you wrote. He loved it. They are already talking about acquiring Chloe Tech for $50 million. She's going to be a multimillionaire, Maya. And Julian proposed to her this morning. We are officially disowning you, Maya," my mother added, her voice dripping with venom. "You are an ungrateful, selfish daughter. Do not contact us. Do not show your face at Chloe's wedding. If you try to sue us, Julian's family has a team of corporate lawyers who will bury you in legal fees until you are homeless. Goodbye." Click. They hung up. I stood in my empty, violated apartment. 3 years of sleepless nights, countless lines of code, my entire future stolen. Handed to a narcissistic bully so she could play pretend as a Silicon Valley genius. A normal person would have cried. A normal person would have hired a cheap lawyer and fought a losing battle against a billionaire's legal team. But I am not a normal person. I am a software engineer. And an engineer knows that every system has a vulnerability. They stole the code. But they didn't understand the code. They didn't know that my algorithm required a specific, dynamic cryptographic key to function in a live, global server environment. Without that key, the AI would slowly degrade, producing garbage data, and eventually bricking the entire system. I didn't call the police. I didn't sue them. I wiped my tears, sat down at my secondary desktop, and began plotting the most catastrophic digital assassination in corporate history. I needed to get inside Axiom Global, the company buying Chloe's fake startup. I changed my hair color from blonde to dark brown. I started wearing thick, professional glasses. I updated my resume, stripping away any mention of my personal AI project, and focused heavily on my enterprise auditing skills. Using a professional recruiter, I applied for a senior technical position at Axiom Global under my legal first and middle name, completely dropping my last name so Julian's family wouldn't recognize it. Because my technical skills were flawless, I was hired within 3 weeks. My job title: Lead Systems Integration Architect. My exact role was to evaluate incoming software acquisitions and integrate them into Axiom's main servers. I was officially a Trojan horse inside the billionaire's castle. Meanwhile, Chloe was living a delusion. She was parading around Silicon Valley, giving interviews to tech blogs as a female tech visionary. My parents were riding her coattails. They took out a massive $500,000 loan against their house to fund a lavish lifestyle, buying Rolexes and designer suits, bragging to everyone in our hometown that their brilliant daughter was about to close a $50 million buyout. Chloe's wedding to Julian was scheduled in exactly 12 months. They planned a massive $2 million gala at a private coastal estate. Julian's billionaire father, Richard, was paying for the wedding. But more importantly, Richard announced that the official $50 million acquisition of Chloe Tech would be signed on the exact same day as the wedding, as the ultimate welcome to the family gift. For 12 months, I worked silently at Axiom. I earned the trust of Julian's father, Richard. He thought I was just a brilliant, quiet engineer named Maya. He had no idea I was the ghost sister of his future daughter-in-law. During this time, Chloe and my father handed over the stolen hard drives to Axiom's tech team for a beta test. Because I was the lead integration architect, the hard drives were handed directly to me. I sat in my secure corporate office, looking at my own stolen hard drives. I smiled. I didn't delete the code. Oh no, that would be too easy. Instead, I heavily obfuscated it. I wrote a highly complex logic bomb into the core architecture. I programmed the AI to work perfectly in the simulated test environment, dazzling the billionaire executives with its efficiency. But I added a trigger. The moment the software was transferred to the live, global production server, which was scheduled to happen the exact minute the $50 million contract was signed at the wedding, the logic bomb would activate. It would trigger a catastrophic memory leak, wipe the proprietary algorithm completely, and replace the user interface with a very specific, undeniable error message. I also did some digging into Chloe and my parents' finances. What I found made me laugh out loud. Chloe had lied to Julian about everything. She had forged financial documents claiming her company had zero debt. In reality, my parents had co-signed over $1.5 million in fraudulent business loans to keep up her fake wealthy image, using the impending $50 million buyout as collateral. If the buyout failed, they wouldn't just be embarrassed. They would be federally investigated for bank fraud, and they would lose their house, their cars, and their freedom. The stage was set. I bought a stunning, blood-red evening gown. I was not invited to the wedding. But as the lead integration architect for Axiom Global, I was absolutely required to be at the contract signing. The day of the wedding arrived. The private coastal estate was breathtaking. There were over 500 guests, celebrities, tech moguls, politicians. There were ice sculptures, walls made of white orchids, and a 6-tier cake wrapped in edible gold. I arrived in a black SUV with the Axiom corporate team. I wore my dark hair up, my thick glasses on, and my blood-red dress. I stayed in the back of the VIP lounge, holding a secure corporate tablet. Through the glass doors, I watched the ceremony. Chloe looked like a princess in a custom Vera Wang gown. Julian looked handsome and oblivious. My parents sat in the front row, crying fake tears of joy, looking incredibly smug in their expensive clothes. They exchanged vows. They kissed. The crowd erupted into applause. After the ceremony, the guests were ushered into the massive grand ballroom for the reception. But the VIPs, Julian, Chloe, Julian's billionaire father Richard, my parents, and the corporate lawyers, went into a luxurious glass-walled boardroom overlooking the ocean. It was time for the $50 million signing. I stood in the corner of the boardroom, tapping the screen of my tablet. Richard, the billionaire CEO, smiled warmly at Chloe. "Chloe, my dear," Richard boomed. "Welcome to the family. This software is going to revolutionize our logistics. You are a true genius. Are we ready to sign?" Chloe beamed, flipping her perfect hair. "Thank you, Richard. I worked so hard on this code. It's my baby. I'm ready to integrate it into your global servers." My father puffed out his chest. "We always knew she was a prodigy," Richard raised her right. I almost vomited. Richard looked over at me. "Maya, you're our lead architect. Are the servers primed for the live transfer?" At the sound of my name, my father froze. Chloe's head snapped toward me. For the first time all day, they actually looked at the quiet woman in the red dress standing in the corner. My father's face turned the color of ash. Chloe's jaw literally dropped open. Maya?" Chloe stammered, her voice shaking. What are you doing here?" Richard looked confused. "You know each other. Maya is my top integration engineer." I stepped forward into the light. I took off my glasses. I looked dead into my sister's terrified eyes, and gave her a chilling, predatory smile. "Yes, Richard," I said, my voice smooth as silk. "We know each other. The servers are primed. Please, Chloe. Sign the document. Let's launch your baby into the global network." My father tried to step forward, panic completely taking over his body. "Wait. Richard, hold on. Let's delay the transfer." "No need to delay, Bob," Richard laughed, handing Chloe a gold pen. "Sign it, my dear." Chloe's hand was shaking violently. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. She knew something was wrong. But she was trapped. If she refused to sign in front of her new billionaire husband and father-in-law, her entire fake life would unravel on the spot. Sweating profusely, her makeup starting to run, Chloe signed the $50 million acquisition contract. "Excellent." Richard clapped. "Maya, initiate the global live transfer." "With pleasure, sir," I whispered. I pressed the red execute button on my tablet. The massive flat-screen monitor on the boardroom wall displayed the Axiom global loading screen. The progress bar for the Chloe Tech AI integration began to fill. 10%. 40%. 80%. 100%. The room held its breath. Suddenly, the screen glitched. A harsh, blaring error buzzer echoed through the boardroom. The screen flashed violently from blue to dark red. A massive prompt appeared on the screen in bold, white letters. "Critical failure. Unauthorized user. Deleting source code." "What's happening?" Richard shouted, stepping back. "Maya, stop it." "I can't, sir," I said calmly. It's a self-destruct sequence hard-coded into the core architecture. On the screen, lines of code began to rapidly delete themselves. 3 years of work, dissolving into the digital void in a matter of seconds. Then, the final blow. A second message appeared on the screen, big enough for everyone to read. Access denied. This software is the sole intellectual property of Maya Vance. Stolen assets detected. Reporting fraud to SEC server. The silence in the boardroom was so heavy it felt suffocating. Julian, the groom, stared at the screen, then turned slowly to his new wife. Chloe, what is this? Who is Maya Vance? I. Chloe was hyperventilating, backing away from the table. Richard's face turned purple with rage. He looked at me, then at Chloe. Maya. You wrote this. She stole it from you. Yes, Richard, I said loudly, projecting my voice so every lawyer in the room could hear. 3 days before they filed the patent, my parents broke into my apartment, stole my physical hard drives, and registered my 3 years of labor under Chloe's name so she could trick your son into marrying her. Liar, my mother screamed, lunging forward like a wild animal. She's a jealous liar. Am I? I asked softly. I pulled a sleek black folder out of my briefcase and tossed it onto the glass table. That folder contains the original time-stamped Git commits, the cryptographic keys proving I am the sole author, and most importantly, a 400-page dossier on Chloe's finances. Julian grabbed the folder and ripped it open. As he read, his face drained of all color. She has no money, I announced to the room. She is $200,000 in personal debt. Her startup is a shell company. And my parents, Robert and Diane, forged income statements to secure $1.5 million in fraudulent bank loans to pay for the fake lifestyle she used to trap you, Julian. Chloe. Julian whispered, looking at her with absolute disgust. Is this true? You stole your sister's code to scam my family. Julian, please. I love you. Chloe sobbed, dropping to her knees in her massive wedding dress, grasping at his tuxedo pants. They forced me. It was my parents' idea. My father let out a choked gasp, clutching his chest. You ungrateful brat. We did this for you. Richard, the billionaire CEO, didn't yell. He didn't scream. He just picked up his phone. Cancel the $50 million wire transfer, Richard commanded into the phone. And call the FBI field office. I want a team here to investigate a multi-million-dollar corporate fraud. He hung up, looking down at Chloe sobbing on the floor. The contract is void. The marriage will be annulled by Monday. Get out of my sight, all of you. I didn't stay to watch them get escorted out by security. I walked out of the glass boardroom, grabbed a glass of vintage champagne from a waiter, and walked down to the beach, listening to the sound of the ocean. The fallout over the next 6 months was something out of a movie. Because the $50 million buyout failed, the fraudulent bank loans my parents took out immediately defaulted. The bank foreclosed on their house. They lost their cars, their retirement funds, and every dime they had. But it got worse. Because they had submitted forged documents to a federally insured bank to get those loans, my parents were indicted for felony bank fraud. My father is currently serving a 4-year sentence in federal prison. My mother is living in a cheap trailer park, working as a cashier at a gas station. Chloe's annulment went through in record time. Julian's family unleashed their army of corporate lawyers, suing her into personal bankruptcy for the wedding costs and the intellectual property theft. Her fake Instagram life was exposed by the media. She lost all her followers, her reputation was destroyed, and she is completely unhireable in the corporate world. The golden child now works night shifts at a fast food restaurant just to pay her minimum legal restitution. As for me, Richard didn't fire me. In fact, he recognized that the brilliant mind he wanted to buy was standing right in front of him. I rewrote the code from scratch. But this time, I didn't sell it to Axiom Global. I licensed it to them. I retain 100% ownership of the patent. I am now a multimillionaire, living in a penthouse overlooking the city. Sometimes, my mother tries to call me from an unknown number. She leaves voicemails, crying, begging me to forgive them, saying that family is everything, and asking for money to pay her rent. I never respond. I just listen to the voicemails while sipping my coffee, look out at the beautiful city skyline I built with my own hands, and press delete. People say blood is thicker than water. But they forget that water is what cleanses the earth when the blood turns toxic.